Honourable members, in accordance with Section 221 of the Organic Law on national and local level government election, I present a copy of the National Court Order, which set as a court of disputed written, EP number 38 of 2022, dated 24 January 2022, in the matter between Ms. Delilah Weka Gore and Mr. Henry Amuli, in which the court ordered that it is hereby declared that grounds 3 and 4 of the petition are upheld under Section 212(1) of the Organic Law on a national and local level government election. 2, it is declared that the first respondent who was retained as the elected member of Soe Open Electorate was not duly elected pursuant to the Section 212(1)(f) of the Organic Law on national and local level government election. 3, it is declared that the election of the first respondent for the Soe Open Electorate declared on 5th August 2022 in the 2022 national election is absolutely void pursuant to Section 212(1)(h) of the Organic Law on national and local level government elections. 4, the second respondent is hereby ordered to conduct a by-election for the Soe Open Electorate forthwith pursuant to Section 2123 of the Organic Law on national and local level government election. 5th, the first respondent shall, subject to any specific order for cost made during the course of the proceedings, may the petitioner's cost of the petition. The registrar shall forthwith refund to the petitioner the security for cost deposited under Section 209 of the Organic Law on national and local level government election. The registrar shall, under Section 221 of the Organic Law on national and local level government election, promptly forward to the Clerk of the National Parliament a copy of the order. Any petitions? Notices? Clerk.
The Prime Minister gives notice that he shall present a proposed law to alter the Constitution and for related purposes.
Honourable members, question without notice. The Governor for Enga.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I wish to ask my questions without notice to the Minister for Finance. Deputy Speaker, I have made representation to the Minister for Finance, myself, and of course the Secretary for the Department of Finance to establish whether a district treasury from my province is operating here in Enga, here in Port Moresby. Mr. Deputy Speaker, since I have made representation, I have not got any response. Can you, the Minister, confirm that this particular district treasury is operating in Enga, in Port Moresby, outside of the district and also outside of our province? If this is confirmed, what will you do to rectify this, as I feel that this is not proper? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Finance.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you. I thank the good Governor for Enga.
Honourable Minister, I interrupt you. Sorry for that. For handset record, address the chairs as acting speaker. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, through acting speaker. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I thank the good governor for, I think it's one question on the issue relating to one district from Enga in regards to the district treasury being operated outside of the province. Mr. Acting Speaker, I have not seen any documents on my table regarding the issue, but I have had several whispers from within my department that issue, you went and the governor visited my secretary in regards to that particular issue. But for me, from the ministry, I have not seen that letter. I will follow up today to actually see if there is such a practice. I also understand that when there's special circumstances, for example, when there was fights in Mendi, steps had to be taken for normal government process to function, which is government treasury and all these other functions of the provincial government, or be district government or district DDAs. So in respect to the question that is asking me, Mr. Acting Speaker, I will go and check it today and respond to him in writing before 4 or 6 so that he can be satisfied that his province, there is no measures taken by districts that are not in line with district treasuries and district provincial governments. So, Acting Speaker, through you, I will get back to him as soon as I can today. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sinasina. Sorry. The Honourable Member for Tsuawe.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Acting Speaker, just for the benefit of the House, my question without notice goes to the Minister for Treasury. From the last Parliament sitting, where we voted the Governor-General, there was a few things that happened. We had droves of young men and women outside the Stanley Hotel in the thousands applying for about 20 jobs, menial labor jobs, dishwashers, waiters, waitresses. We had 700 degree holders apply to become teachers at the University of Goroka. We've recently had the Lay Biscuit Company shut down for 2 weeks because it can't sell its products. We've got a youth bulge issue in the country that the House must take note of, Mr. Assistant Speaker. There's too many young people without any prospects or opportunity for employment in the country. So my question to the Honourable Treasurer, what is the government's plan for employment? How do we address this issue of youth unemployment? What do we do to increase the number of people that are gainfully employed so this can directly address the rising crime rate that we're seeing in the country now? Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
The Honourable Minister, the Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the Vice Minister and the Honourable Member for his very timely question on what plans the Marape Rosso government has to creating jobs in our country. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of initiatives at a very high level that this government has taken to create jobs, and this is one of the very, very key initiatives that our government has been working on and must continue to work on. At a high level, from a budget perspective, Mr. Speaker, we continue to restructure our budget and to ensure that we pump more money into those economic activities that will create jobs. I'm referring here, Mr. Speaker, to our capital budget, which 3 years ago when we took office was sitting at around about 4.6 billion kina. This year, as the honourable member knows, in his planning documents, we've increased that to 9.7 billion kina. Of that particular budget, our PIP, or Public Investment Promotion, Public Investment Project component, we've increased it from a little bit over 2 billion when we took over office to around about 6.6 this year, a 220% increase. So at a high level, from a budget perspective, that's what we've done. But of course, Mr. Speaker, there are other issues when we talk about creating jobs. If you recall, Mr. Speaker, I had answered this question back in about 2020 when I was asked, and I mentioned that then that jobs growth for any government will be delivered by pro-job and pro-growth policies. With our government, as you know, Vice Minister, we have set a target of 10,000 jobs in a formal economy, and many, many more in the informal economy, which covers, of course, our SMEs and rural workers. So one of our first targets is we need to make sure that we make PNG an internationally competitive economy, including through ensuring our wage rates are brought into line with regional averages. Of course, higher wages can mean less jobs in an economy such as PNG, so it's always about getting the right balance. The Marape Rosso government is very much focused on building the agriculture, fisheries and tourism sectors, and increasing, of course, downstream processing. And of course, last weekend we saw the results of some of the good work being completed and implemented in the Gazelle electorate. Of course, we need to continue to look at greater funding in our infrastructure, and we have done that by setting PNG Connects as our signature policy. And in this year's budget, I'm very pleased to advise our country and the House that we have implemented one of the legislative changes we made, which was to ensure that 5.6%, I think it is, I stand to be corrected, of our annual revenue forecast is put aside for that particular program. This year, if I recall correctly, we had budgeted 1.2 billion kina. So that's some of the things that we've been doing so far. In agriculture, for example, some of the exciting initiatives that we've taken, we've properly invested in a state equity fund in agriculture of 40 million kina last year, and that was to support the expansion of large-scale projects. We've created new ministries of coffee, palm oil to ensure a focus on these key areas of investment. We have significant investments in roads, like we've mentioned, and I'm very, very happy to, at another time, provide a very detailed statement, or perhaps my colleague, the Minister for Roads Works, can do that, to detail the record number of contracts that have been issued, and to explain that in a way that our people can understand. I won't go into some of the example of road projects which we've covered already here. So I'll just move on very quickly to fisheries investment. We need to, in this particular space, properly invest in our Pacific marine industrial zones. Last year, of course, we budgeted 100 million, and this year we have our new minister, our effective Minister for International trade and investment, working on that. Of course, we also need to expand our rural jetties. Last year we budgeted 4 million kina, and this year I think we doubled that amount. In tourism, again, an untouched and a huge potential for our country that we continue to talk about. I will leave some more detailed discussions to the Minister for that. But lastly, other initiatives that help us create more jobs is to deal with the greatest barrier of doing business in our country. And we've heard in the last 3.5 years, and in fact before that when we took government, that foreign exchange reforms together with reforms to the Central Banking Act must take place, and I'm very happy to advise that later this afternoon I'll touch a little bit more on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Governor for West New Britain.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Question below me, without notice, me direct him golo. Deputy Prime Minister, na same time I'm Acting Minister below Immigration too. Just now I'm Treasurer, I'm talk lo importance below tourism. As we all know, tourism is multi-billion-dollar industry. Minus have one mas na yumi hard lo PNG am one hardest country lo kisim visa. Them am complain below many tourists. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but kisim visa lo come inside lo PNG. It's one of the most difficult tasks. Can the acting immigration minister, Natu, Deputy Prime Minister, can assure this House that the promised honorable visa in 2015 time President Blow India come now this year Yumi Okla expect him Prime Minister Blow India to come. So enough Yumi can grant him tourist visa lo this country India. They stand to be like number 3 in the world economy. Right now they are in 4th place and they stand to become number 3 in the world. So can the minister clarify as to why Yumi Oklo delay him, lo give him this tourist visa lo India and other countries? Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Acting Speaker. And I'd like to say appreciate the question from good governor from West New Britain on the very critical question he has just posed to us. For the case below tourist visa, I want big plus something. A lot of it is not just an easy solution, like you may give visa, that's all. It means interacting with foreign affairs, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs has just recently updated us that he's working on ratifying a lot of the issues that we have had with backlog of foreign affairs problems associated with other countries, so that we can be able to allow visas to be done and issued for them. One of the things we've just uplifted is the business visas, which is now a 12-month business visa, short-term for 12 months, that businesses can apply one time that's all, no comes up 1 month, walk up, na go, na come back over a period of 12 months, so all no can apply every time, na sanaplo line again every time. So it's making it a quicker and easy turnaround time for our businesses in light of the upcoming mines and also for our current businesses in Papua New Guinea. And quite rightfully said so, the good governor has mentioned about tourism. Tourism is a very important aspect that we need to look in straight in. So we are in constant talks with our good foreign affairs minister, and he has just updated me also that the Indonesian and Indian diplomatic visas and will be on arrival for the diplomatic staff that is coming in from them, and then we will also be looking at the Philippines and the Koreans. So they will be coming in. So we're working at rectifying a lot of this. He also said that some of this had been backlogged for over 8 years that hasn't been done, and he's now sorting it out with our immigration office to rectify a lot of these backlog of issues. So yes, we are working on it, and it's a very important thing, and we'll be able to sort it out and announce it to Parliament in the following months. Thank you.
Supplementary. We have a supplementary, Governor Oro.
Deputy Speaker, my supplementary obviously is to the Minister. It's in relation to the same subject. Can the Minister advise if there is an intention or a plan to expand the services? Because currently what is happening is they're facing a staffing capacity issue. And in many of the areas where we have migration officers operating, you'll find that they're overburdened with work. The number of people coming to the country has increased significantly, but the number of officers responsible for managing or processing them has not increased. So can the Minister just elaborate on this, please? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you on that further question. Just to elaborate, we've realized that there is a backlog of a lot of this, and we've recently, the Chief Migration Officer has allowed for 28 extra staff to sort out the backlog that is we are working on at the moment. We're also looking at setting up a couple of offices. One of them will be in Leh to process passports for people in the Momase and the Highlands areas. So that will be established in Leh. But for the long line of visas for coming into the country, yes, we've noticed the problem, and we've already recruited 28 people to sort out the issues. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mulbaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker. My question without notice to the Minister of Police, the Defence Minister can take note. My question without notice goes to the Police Minister. There are warlords in Ella province ordering resources in capacity and demanding ransom, young girl being taken hostage and repeatedly being raped. The act of criminals have been gone viral on social media and creating fear among citizens of this beautiful nation. And lately, an innocent taxi driver was hacked to death by unknown criminals near Edai town. It also went viral in the social media. This is so scary and putting lives of innocent citizens at risk. Our citizens, foreigners are living with fear. My question, can the police minister tell this country through this floor, what measures is your department undertaken so far to deal with the warlords in Ella and senseless killing along Papolela Road? If nothing has been done, then why? Can you explain to the floor so that people of Papua New Guinea can be aware? This has been going viral. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mitok thank you long. Mema blo mulbaya long. Asking blongem. And I want to, on the onset, just have this opportunity long. Talk thank you long. All get the leaders inside the display house long 11 province you plus tap longem. Time you been starting this parliament, you meet to law and order. Emblo you me all geta. Now me just like appreciate him, you plal geta lo walk him. Now too long collaboration bla want them all PPCs bla. Because we encourage all PPCs to work closely with the district or your open members, including the governors, to ensure that we have full visibility in collaboration and in alignment in curbing the law and order issue. We must talk clear, Deputy Speaker. Inogat warlord lo this black country. You must rouse him this la phrase. These are pure criminals. You no can give all this blah kind name. So long asking blue you antap long walk lo kamantap lo hela. As you would know and the other leaders would know, we are working closely with the leadership on the ground. Now more than ever, we need leadership. We are stretched as a force, and we all know that. We have only 5,000 men managing and forcing our law and order issues. We are making every effort. We started with the recruitment, and we've started that. We've also identified areas within the force that needs special attention. Our CID, our forensic, we are addressing that. We're making recruitments happen as we speak. And just with the issue up in Hela, Yumi got special policing zone along Western Front. And again, Yumi walk close to one team leadership on the ground. We're making every effort for us to manage this scenario that is happening in the Western Front up in Hela. And it's across the country. So me ask him, Tasol, support Bliplo leaders. This is not going to happen overnight. This issue did not just happen in 2023 or 22 or 21. This is a culmination of the neglect our force have had over a period of 10 to 15 years. So with that, my honorable member, God barely see, I'm probably having sleepless nights, and I'm taking that responsibility to ensure that you may walk one time our operational side of the police. There will also be some amendments that will coming to the floor. Lo yumi long walking all strong pla lo moyet or enforcing strong pla law lo deterrim or list like kind elections by all citizens blo yumi. So with that, honorable member blo mulbaya, mi hope osem mi answer him question blo you, but we're doing as a police force, we're doing everything possible now to ensure that we address this the lawlessness that is at the forefront of this country. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable member for Abao, you've got a point of order. What's your point of order?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the good member clearly asked the Honorable Minister, what is the force doing with regards to some of those specific incidents? Because some player photo come out law, Facebook, yeah, all these criminals. Tell the country what is the force doing rather than a general statement. Are there people going out there looking for them here near Boira, up in Hela? Because Facebook, yeah, face come out. Tell the country what are you doing? When are you going to apprehend them? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Minister, we have a point of order. I haven't ruled on the point of order made by the honorable member for Abao. I think I'll make a ruling on that, and then I can ask you for your point of order. I think the honorable minister, the honorable member's point of order is in regard to the question the honorable member for Mulbaya have asked in specific of those incidents that happened, that they like the members like you to inform the House on what is being done on those particular incidents that happened. So that I would ask you again to answer the point of order raised by the honorable member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. First and foremost, our social media, and in particular, the type of exposure that the platform has, also impinges on the communication ministry, because you may talk along the cyberspace, and obviously all culprits walk along USIM or people, citizens using that platform to expose all this placanal behavior now. In terms of the prosecution, along all this line where you only expose them all penis, immediately we have a cyber crime office
We also have a team that particularly looks into these types of incidents. Now, as you know, police, time you work in prosecution, when we carry out a prosecution or when we get to the scene, it's not just straightforward. There are processes in place. So, me just like give him comfort genlo, house or sem. The police have taken action, and it's a process that they go through. Now, where it's up to, we'll be here for 2 weeks. I can get an update, and in the next sitting, I'll be able to give specific answers to that particular incident, which I'm asking institution lele. So, the process, we've started the process, as we know. So I think, Deputy Speaker, in the next session, we can be more specific, and we can give you how far we've gone with the prosecution or the arrest. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Fisheries, you have a point of order, which... Okay. Any more questions? The Honourable Member for Pomio.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I'd like to ask a question to the Minister for Environment Conservation. Please, suppose I stop. Stop.
Stop.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. About 2021, the Parliament passed the Climate Change Management Act. And then one of the reasons for that particular act is to have in place a secretariat to monitor the carbon trade activities in the country. Because you know that secretariat in place, there was a moratorium that was imposed by the previous minister. While this moratorium was in place, there was some organizations like Knight and Force that went to some parts of my district, and they did sign some carbon trade activities with some of my people there, despite the fact that the moratorium or ban was in place. So, Mr. Speaker, question below me, one position long government, long carbon trade, long country below me. Number two question, is the moratorium on the carbon trade activities in place yet or not? Number three, what will be the action taken by the government on those two particular companies or the organizations that are in Pomio now, especially the Fawcett, who are actually causing some chaos and confusion among my people there. One time online long night. These are two organizations that are now doing carbon trade in my district. One action now carbon by taking long online by only staff in our district, signing some agreement, one time online place, law going to carbon trade, when it's a moratorium by the government, then we start in place. More questions from me. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I'd like to thank the member for Pomio for a very good questions. Firstly, I'd like to, before answering the questions, I'd like to thank the people of Lufa for electing me as the minority leader to represent them in this floor of Parliament. Thank you. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Mara Peroso government and my party leader for United Resource Party for entrusting me with this ministry. Thirdly, I'd like to thank the opposition leader and our brothers at the opposition. And also, I'd like to acknowledge our two leaders, lady leaders in the House. Mr. Speaker, the Knight and Forex are based on the voluntary carbon scheme. They have been in the country since 2019. So the moratorium that has been placed was passed in 2021. So they have, year before the moratorium was placed by the former minister. So right now we are working on the carbon trade markets regulation, which is now with the state soil. So once the carbon trade regulations has been the necessity certificate of necessity has been approved by state soil, we will then remove the moratorium. But right now there is a moratorium for new voluntary markets, so there is no new company coming in for voluntary markets. So the carbon trade regulation is under right now under the is with state soil now for them to review and give the certificate of necessity. So as for the night, they're operating in New Ireland for almost since 2019, and they have been operating under the platform of WERA to deal with voluntary carbon credits. So the report on ABC was done in the forestry area, but that is not covered in the area where NITE is operating to conserve the forest. It is done away from the area, in the logging area, to distribute our credits in saying that PNG doesn't have the capacity and doesn't have the credits. But actually we have the credits, and we are looking to verify the credits with PNG Forest Authority and other relevant stakeholders at this moment. As for the member at Pomio, I will go back to the office, check with the staff, and I will come back with the answer on his electorate at Pomio. Thank you.
Honorable member, do you have a point of order on your question or a supplementary again on to your question?
English speaker, I think point of order, by clearly famous.
Yeah.
Take it through Minister Long and said him clear through this la ask him long and ask him again and also because he took also all tubla company been stopped before or moratorium is stop in place. Me ask him also enough ministry blow you gonna conduct him audit lo work all make inside the district blow me because he got sample all cross bite na complaint ka na all people lo have. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Honorable member, I think your point of order, the minister have replied that he will go back to his ministry and do a report specifically on your electorate and report back to you. So, Minister, if you have anything to say on that, otherwise I will rule out the point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stated earlier, I'll go back to the ministry and get the right information to come and relate to my brother, member for Pomio. Thank you.
The honourable member for Abao.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My questions without notice is directed to the Minister responsible for the National Development Bank. I don't know which one. Minister for State-Owned Enterprises. Thank you. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I want to ask a question to the Honourable Minister with regards to access to credit for the rural masses. We can acknowledge today that our banking systems mostly operate at the provincial level, and with regards to some of them with very bad or difficult policies on loans and many conditions, our rural masses miss out big time. Once upon a time, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the National Development Bank, for example, had a branch in Kupiano in Abao district. That has over time lost its extension. And I think of recently, I think 10 years ago, there was another attempt by the National Development Bank to continue to build facilities for access to credit for our rural masses. My question, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is would the Minister consider a program of picking up the establishment of National Development Bank branches at the district level? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for State Enterprise.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I want to also thank the member for Dr. Pugatema for this important question. I think this question also applies to many of our leaders in Parliament today. Mr. Acting Speaker, the bank until 2017 received direct funding from the government through the national budget to be able to continue to provide service and also to cater for expansion of its service to many of our rural areas. That stopped when the government decided not to provide funding. The bank is not a normal commercial bank, as all of us already appreciate. It is a development bank, and
under the rules of operations, it is only allowed to charge interest on the money that it lends at a rate below 4 to 3%, which is just enough to keep its operational expenses going. It is not meant to make profit for its shareholder. So that is a situation with the bank which all of us have to understand. If it were allowed to charge interest more than 4%, it will be able to make some money. But in the case of expansion to the rural areas, the bank has, through some of the internal sources, been able to establish some branches in collaboration with some of our leaders. Good examples are like the former member for Maprik a number of years ago when he allocated some of his DSIP funds, and we were able to have a branch constructed in Maprik, and our Prime Minister opened it a number of years ago. The other example is the case of Tari district, which myself and the Prime Minister also opened. So it is open to our members to allocate some funding to be able to open up branches in your electorates. The bank will try and come with the balance, and together we can work in partnership to open those. So, as I said earlier, these are the circumstances the bank is allowed to operate in. The interest rates are below 4%, which is not enough to actually enable the bank to make a decent return on our investment. So it is open. It is up to all of us to work together. We will expect a contribution from our local members, and the bank will contribute its share, and it will then start allocating staff and the technical equipment that will be installed in those premises to be able to run an operation for our people. So, as I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, I do not wish to repeat, but it is open to, it is prepared to work with our members as long as there is a contribution from the members themselves. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Goilala.
Speaker, beg pardon. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, look, several people who go to speak. Lo, this is the Honourable House. By way of background, before me asking question to me, call a good Prime Minister of mining. Me give background blow question to me. Tolokoma is a mine that for some unknown reason changed ownership from time to time. I think it must have been changed. The ownership changed for some 4 or 5 times before Petromin came in, and then it was given to Asidoko. And now the mine was unofficially or deliberately, I don't know, by mistake or by design, shut down, and the future of the mine is not in the clear visibility. In recent times, there was a 20 million promised to the people, to the landowners, to have access to that money. All my people have flocked down into the city and have been here for almost some months now, and they keep on congregating at Apex Park at the back of Post Office along Engel Drive to see whether that money is going to be made available. Can the good minister, due to the fact that that mine was shut without any proper way of closing down the mine, and now that we hear that the mine has been bought and will be in operation, like I stated in one of the questions in a previous sitting, open members are not in the discussion. So I could be mistakenly asking this question, but for the interest of my people, if the good minister can clearly state what is the status of this 20 million promised to the people, one. Number two, clearly demarcate or clearly specify this is money and blow on them something. A money blow people will lay down, walk, or a money blow papa ground, or a one kind money. So that my people at least come to some term of reference or come to some understanding so that all can waste in time. Long all come down, walk about. We do walk in by 5 days to get here until God willing we build our roads. But my people only walk about come here now. They've been here for some months now. Enough, good minister, for the sake of my people, share him some clarity around this money. So Lime Lomi can go back to the place and go hide inside the bush. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Minister for Mining.
Mr. Acting Speaker, and thank you, Member for Goilala, for that question. Mr. Speaker, I am not aware of this 20 million committed for the landowners or for the mine, but I will look into it. I will find out what was this 20 million for and advise on the status of the funds. I understand that the Tolukuma mine is not closed. When a mine is closed, there is a mine closure procedures one has to go through. And I don't think that mine closure procedures has been activated because of the status of the mine, which I think has not been closed. I think the mine is in transition at the moment. It has passed from one investor to another, and it appears very clear that the mine at the moment is not profitable. That is why investors are reluctant to put in more money. The main reason why the mine is not profitable is because of the fly-in and fly-out arrangements. That is, operation is conducted by way of helicopter flight. And if you are going in and out by helicopters, it's very, very expensive process. But there are also some investors looking at the way forward. But the most important infrastructure that we need to build in that area is a road from Mosby all the way to Goilala. And that is the only way that mine can be profitable. So it is something that the government will look at down the line, because I feel that there is a very big potential for that mine. But we have to make it viable. And the only way we can do it is to build that road, to encourage businessmen to go in. At the moment, the only way is fly in and fly out, and the businessmen are not very encouraged to spend the money. So that's where we are on that mine, and I'm just hoping that we will find a way. I've just recently received an offer, and I will be talking to you and the governor, our good governor, to take up this offer from one of the big mining companies in the country to do scoping work free of charge. So I will be referring it to you and the governor. If you are in agreement, you can invite this company to go and do the scoping work so that he will be able to then put the figures before the government for us to consider. But the main question for the 20 million kina, member for Goilala, I will go back and look at where these funds are, if they are there and if they have been committed, and I will advise you on the status. Thank you.
Honorable members, we have 2 more minutes for question time. Seems that there is no question to be asked, so I'll ask the Minister, the Treasurer, for him to make his ministerial statement. The Honorable Member, I will reserve your question for tomorrow and give priority for your question, because I've already made a ruling on the question time, so my apology. The Honorable Minister, Treasurer.
Mr. Speaker, the Marape Rosso government is an open and transparent government. This means keeping our Parliament and our people informed of key economic developments. I am pleased to provide another economic update this afternoon. There are many economic issues facing our country, and time is short, so I will focus on key international budget and inflation issues since the 2023 budget statement. On an international update, Mr. Speaker, the international outlook at the time of the 2023 budget was gloomy and uncertain. As expected, the World Bank January economic outlook document slashed its global growth outlook from 3 to 1.7% for this year. This is the third worst growth performance in the world economy in the last 30 years, and 2020 was also one of the 3 worst. The World Bank estimates growth in PNG will be 0.8% less in 2022 and 2023 this year than forecast just 6 months ago. Fortunately, we had built much of this into our growth forecasts, and as previously stated, our Papua New Guinea economy is doing so much better than most other countries. Indeed, the new World Bank forecast for PNG of real growth of 3.5% is still more than double the world average. More than double. Despite this bad global news, there is no need to panic. The Marape government was able to steer our country's economy through the dangers of the COVID-19 pandemic. Papua New Guinea will weather this latest storm much better than most other countries. And once again, we will be responsive, responsible, and caring. On our 2023 budget implementation status, Mr. Speaker, PNG's financial accounts for 2023 opened on the 9th of January. Now it's time to implement our historic 2023 budget. This year, we will see the highest level of government expenditure in our country's history, 24,567 million kina. All of this within a responsible program of budget repair and reconstruction, which will see Papua New Guinea return to a budget surplus target date of 2027 and the start of reducing our country's debt. Let me highlight some key expenditure priorities as we implement the Pangu platform from the 2022 election. Infrastructure expenditure will increase from 4,668 million kina in 2018 to 9,796 million this year, more than doubling. This is also being delivered with more local content and more local job opportunities. Within that capital budget of 9,796 million, PNG's Public Investment Program, or PIP component, has increased from 2,041 million in 2018 to 6,615 million this year, as I mentioned a little earlier this afternoon at question time. This is an extraordinary increase of over 220%. The Marape Rosso government is the infrastructure government. Responsible investments in physical capital to support growth in our economy. We are also supporting major increases in human capital spending. Our health funding will reach 2,311 million this year, a 34% increase since 2021. Education will receive 1,650 million kina, a 51% increase from 2021. Law and justice will reach 1,787 million kina, a 41% increase from 2021. This is supporting the police recruitment campaign. Wasn't it great to see so many of our young people apply in January this year? Over 18,000 applications. We have committed increased salary funding for a steady 5% increase in the numbers of teachers and doctors and nurses through to 2027, and then a 10% increase each year after that. Just have a look at our 13-year plan. Making sure that our new schools and hospitals will have the necessary staff. The economic sector will receive 989 million kina, a 46% increase from 2021, with a much greater focus on supporting our farmers and agriculture and SMEs. Funding for provinces will increase to 5,138 million kina, a 30% increase from 2021, giving our good governors more resources to implement their key activities at the decentralized level. The major challenge for the 2023 budget is now ensuring that this record level of funding is spent well and benefits our people. There is much work, much hard work ahead for all of us to ensure that this occurs. The 2023 budget is being delivered with a budget repair of a 1 billion reduction in the deficit. A low-cost financing strategy which has lowered debt interest costs from 6.5% to 4.2%, thereby generating interest cost savings of 1,353 million kina in 2023 alone. And all in the context of a tough global environment with many countries expected to fall into recession, whilst PNG grows at double the world rate. Our country is doing better than most because of the good economic policies of our Marape Rosso government, guided by the Pangu vision of leaving no district or person behind. Do not believe the lies of social media or some of those sitting on the other side. Our 2023 household assistance package. Mr. Speaker, despite the good economic news looking forward, we must remember that PNG has, frankly, some of the worst social indicators in the region. Too much poverty and living standards for most of our people that simply are not high enough. This government knows the cost of living pressures facing families around our nation. For the first time in PNG's history, the Marape government developed a package to help address some of those pressures. 587 million in 2022, 590 million kina in 2023, a total of 1,177 million kina in assistance to our households and assistance to our people. No other government has ever delivered such a household assistance package. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased that the IRC has written to all employers with new tax schedules applying from the 1st of January this year. This is providing tax cuts of up to 63 kina per fortnight for all those earning 20,000 kina or more for 2023. As mentioned in the newspapers, our dailies, NESFund estimates this will benefit over 98% of their members, most of them in the younger age group. From the 1st of January this year, we are also continuing for another 6 months the removal of all excise taxes on fuel. This will save 61 toya per litre of petrol costs and 23 toya per litre of diesel costs. From the 1st of January this year, we are also covering the costs of social project fees in 2023. For example, a family no longer has to pay the project fee of 220 kina for each of its children attending secondary schools. This program helps ensure that relief gets out to the furthest parts of our country. The cost of living relief is greatest for those most in need, those families with the most mouths to feed while letting their children attend school rather than work in the gardens. Responsible, caring budgeting. The Marape Rosso government supporting families in ways never before experienced in Papua New Guinea. On inflation, the National Statistics Office, NSO, has released its estimates of inflation for the September quarter of 2022. The NSO estimates inflation over those 3 months was 1%. This is half the inflation rate of 2% for the 3 months of the June quarter of 2022. Mr. Speaker, the government keeps a very close eye on inflation. It knows that some key items have had very high price increases. This is why we introduced a 1,177 million household assistance package to help deal with some of these cost of living pressures. The good news is that the overall current level of inflation of 6.3% is below PNG's long-term average rate of 7%. The Treasury and the Central Bank, along with international institutions, are predicting the inflation rate will be below 6% this year and fall towards 5% next year. Mr. Speaker, this means we are not expecting this year. Once again, beware the funded scare campaign by social media and the so-called PNG empty tank. These inflation figures are gathered by the NSO across many areas of the country and go into detail on over 120 items and services. As a responsible government, we will continue to closely monitor inflation levels. If things get worse, we will look at options to do more within the context of sustainable budget repair. Our international engagement. Mr. Speaker, one of the great strengths of the Marape Rosso government is its willingness to engage constructively and honestly with the international community. I have had the honour to have had 3 good discussions with Australian Treasurer Jim Chalmers already in 2022 and 2023. These discussions include shared economic and trade opportunities, such as labour mobility and good, cheap financing options. On the International Monetary Fund program, Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to foreshadow to this Parliament that PNG stands ready to enter into a funded program with the International Monetary Fund or the IMF, our first program in nearly 20 years. We commenced this partnership back in 2019. We knew the IMF were critical for restoring international confidence in PNG's economic management. We saw them as a source of transparency and expertise. This engagement was also important for the 1.2 billion kina in cheap funding they provided to us in 2020 to deal with the then 20% fall in our revenues due to the COVID-19 pandemic. All countries were also assisted by the IMF with an increase in quotas in 2021. We now stand ready to engage in a program that will likely contribute 310 or possibly 614 million kina this year to support our budget repair, and a total of up to 3,250 million kina over the next 3 years. Importantly, agreement to this program is also vital for securing support from other countries. Without a program, Australian legislation would require the 1,800 million kina we received just in December last year actually having to be repaid now, and little prospects of success for the request of 1,500 million kina this year reflected in our financing plan. We will also approach Japan and other partners, including the World Bank, the ADB, for support, and they are all linked to the IMF program. The alternative to this, of course, is going back to expensive commercial loans and, of course, being able to borrow significantly less than what we are currently doing today. The guiding principle for engaging with the IMF has been support for the Marape Rosso government's economic reform program. The IMF are extremely satisfied with our program of economic repair and reconstruction. They are also pleased with the progress we have been making on good governance reforms, especially those around the Independent Commission against Corruption. They are keeping us honest, pushing our institutions to release more transparent procurement data. They are also working closely with us on reform of our monetary and foreign exchange rate practices. We are sure they will welcome and respect our own local expertise provided through PNG's owned independent advisory group on the central bank reforms. There have been hiccups along the road, yes, and I expect there will be hiccups in the future. Overall, however, it has been a productive partnership, and we must, on occasions, take a hard-headed approach to our national interest, including linked funding support. And like all negotiations, this will require some give and take on both sides. At the end of this statement, members of Parliament, I have attached details on the program for this Parliament. This covers the details of the loan terms and expected disbursement schedule. It includes all of the quantitative and qualitative conditions for the first 12 months. We have 18 of those. And this is part of our rolling 3-year program. I will continue to provide regular updates to the IMF on this IMF program, including any updated conditions. And I welcome parliamentarians to a briefing at our Treasury to go through the program, and would hope we can organise a broader meeting with the IMF with those of you that have time and might be interested during their next visit to Papua New Guinea. So I commend this program to the House. For good health in 2023, Mr. Speaker, at this time, I must also note the tremendous loss to the country of the sudden death of Sir Wilson Kamit. Sir Wilson was the first Bank of PNG governor following the reforms of Sir Makere Murauta. He held a position from 1999 to 2009. These were good years economically for our country. I have been honoured to have had him as one of the 3 members of our independent advisory group on modernising the current Central Banking Act. He has made a great contribution to our country, and I was greatly saddened by his sudden passing. My sincere condolences to Lady Winifred, his family and colleagues. I would also like to thank Mr. Jim Hagan, our key contact within the Australian Department of Treasury, for all of the support he has provided to our country and the wider Pacific over many, many years, and wish him well in his retirement. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, New Ireland is a matrilineal society. During the Christmas break in the first 2 months of this year, I had met with over 4,000 mothers and youths to listen to their views on priorities for 2023. My clear view is that the Marape Rosso government is doing the right things for our mothers, our youth and our people. There is still a long path to travel before we reach the living standards that our people deserve. But we are taking the right steps forward. A record 24,567 million 2023 budget, with spending focused on key priority areas. 1,177 million kina assisting households with cost of living pressures. Budget repair of 1,000 million kina. Economic growth policies focused on rural areas, delivering double the world average at 3.5%. Inflation moderating to under 6%, moving to greater economic independence. Working constructively and openly with our international partners, implementing the Pangu Vision, all within our available resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to move that we take note of Treasurer's statement and adjourn debate for subsequent sittings. Mr. Acting Speaker.
The question is that those who agree to. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Speaker, I move that we adjourn Parliament to tomorrow 10 a.m. Thank you.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honourable members, I now adjourn Parliament to tomorrow 10 o'clock a.m.